RM1, it's 9 o'clock. The news in English with Iris Stewart. Good morning, Iris.
Good morning, Sophie, and good morning, everyone. Domestic violence figures raise alarm as Mauritius records a third femicide in just 4 days. Manhunt intensifies in the fatal La Caverne assault as international cooperation is activated. Road violence remains a national emergency with 123 deaths recorded in 2025. Chagos agreement reaches a decisive stage as the House of Lords debates key legislation. Digital overhaul ahead for public transport with major reforms planned for bus services. In world news, deadly protests spread across Iran as unrest over rising living costs deepens. And in sports news, Premier League round 20 ends with stalemates for City, Liverpool and United. This morning, 5th of January 2026, sees all sectors across the country resume activity to begin a year expected to bring major and decisive economic challenges. This return to work concerns around 100,000 public officers and 400,000 private sector employees. Best wishes and courage to everyone as the year gets underway. However, 2026 has already begun with a worrying series of tragedies. Since the 1st of January, 40 cases of domestic violence have been reported through the hotline of the Ministry of Gender Equality, an alarming figure, especially as Mauritius has recorded a third femicide in just 4 days following the killing of Sivani Saminaden, allegedly murdered by her husband. Following this tragedy, Gender Links Mauritius, an organization advocating gender equality and women's rights, has expressed deep concern. Its director, Anushka Veerasamy, warns that the situation continues to deteriorate despite repeated alerts. She urges victims to break the silence, seek help, and escape cycles of violence, reminding the public that solutions exist before it's too late. In the case of the fatal assault of Paul-Claude Duval in La Caverne, more details are emerging. The 81-year-old victim died outside his home after being violently attacked, reportedly following dispute over noise pollution. The main suspect, Gary Rodney Warren, remains on the run. Despite being married to a Reunion national, he does not hold a French passport, significantly limiting legal travel options. The manhunt has now taken on an international dimension with Interpol assistance. More details in this report from Santana Ponseno, voiced over by Pranav Piari.
The manhunt for Gary Rodney Warren is continuing and has now extended beyond Mauritian borders. He's the prime suspect in the fatal assault of Paul-Claude Duval in La Caverne. The incident dates back to 13th December 2025. According to investigators, an altercation broke out outside the victim's home after the 81-year-old reportedly asked for the volume of loud music to be turned down. The situation quickly escalated and the victim was violently assaulted. Seriously injured, Paul-Claude Duval was rushed to hospital and placed under medical supervision. After 11 days of fighting for his life, he died on 24th December at Victoria Hospital in Condos. The post-mortem examination concluded that death was caused by severe complications linked to the injuries sustained, including serious trauma. Another key element in the investigation is that despite being married to a Reunion national, the suspect does not hold a French passport, significantly limiting his ability to travel legally abroad. For several days, police have deliberately restricted communication to avoid jeopardizing the operation. On the ground, investigations are ongoing. Relatives and members of the suspect's close circle, particularly in the north of the island, have been questioned. All claim they have had no contact with him since his disappearance. At this stage, 3 people have been arrested and provisionally charged with culpable omission in preventing a crime. The main suspect remains at large, but authorities confirm that international cooperation has been fully activated. The search continues.
And staying on the subject, another form of violence continues to claim lives. Road violence. Between 1st of January and 30 December 2025, 115 fatal road accidents resulted in 120 deaths across Mauritius, an unacceptably high toll. The situation is all the more concerning as law enforcement appears ill-equipped to deal effectively with dangerous driving. Apart from limited road checks largely aimed at visibility and statistics, there is currently no real capacity to counter extreme road aggression. Abroad, police motorcycle units are trained and equipped for high-speed pursuits. In countries like Malaysia, officers are deployed every 5 kilometers with vehicles capable of speeds of up to 200 kilometers per hour. In Mauritius, however, police motorcyclists lack both training and equipment for such pursuits. Although authorities are considering how to address this gap, meanwhile, Land Transport Minister Osman Mohamed plans to introduce a Road Manslaughter Act in Parliament. And a key milestone is expected in the implementation of the agreement between the United Kingdom and Mauritius concerning the Chagos archipelago. The House of Lords meets today to examine the Diego Garcia military base and British Indian Ocean Territory Bill. Lawmakers will be able to propose and debate amendments during this stage, which is crucial ahead of the final reading scheduled for Wednesday. More details on this with Maya Lachman.
In the House of Lords, the bill is scheduled for the report stage this Monday. During this stage, members will conduct a thorough review of the Diego Garcia military base and British Indian Ocean Territory Bill. Around 50 amendments have been proposed, focusing on 4 main areas: environmental protection, the continued use of Diego Garcia base, negotiations with Mauritius on the right of return for the Chagosians, and consultations with the Chagosian community. In an interview with the NBC this Sunday, the Attorney General predicted the adoption of about 12 amendments. The bill addresses the status and future of the Chagos archipelago, including the continued administration of the US-British joint military base on Diego Garcia. The Attorney General also provided details regarding the timeline for a visit to the Chagos archipelago. Gavin Glover also emphasised that the disbursement of the financial package outlined in the agreement is scheduled for June. As for the bill to create a special £40 million fund for the Chagosians, it will be presented at the start of parliamentary session in March.
And the year ahead is also expected to see major digital reforms in public transport. A bus services bill is being finalised and will soon be introduced in Parliament. The legislation aims to transition towards cashless fare payments and introduce a fleet management system, allowing the National Land Transport Authority to track buses in real time. The bill will also grant access to operators' accounts for verification and audit purposes, strengthening transparency and regulation in the sector. Take a listen to more info on this with Maya Lachman.
2,000. That's the number of buses serving various routes across the country every day. This sector is set for a major modernization to improve efficiency. A bus service bill is currently being drafted. The bill proposes the implementation of a fleet management system. The system will enable the authorities to track buses in real time using GPS. The reforms proposed under the Bus Services Bill will also include the introduction of a passenger information system through mobile apps for real-time bus tracking and schedules, the transition to a cashless fare payment system, and the installation of surveillance cameras on buses.
And it's 9:08. You're listening to RM1 where we move to international news. Fresh deadly clashes have erupted in Iran, according to rights groups and local media, as protests triggered by rising living costs enter their second week. At least 12 people have been killed. US President Donald Trump warned that Iran would be hit very hard if more protesters die. Demonstrations have been reported overnight in Tehran, Shiraz, and parts of western Iran. These protests are the most significant since the 2022-2023 movement, sparked by the death in custody of Mahsa Amini. And finally, in sports in England, the Premier League concluded its 20th round. The much-anticipated clash between Manchester City and Chelsea ended in a 1-1 draw. City opened the scoring in the 42nd minute, but were denied a 14th win of the season. The result allows Arsenal to maintain a 6-point lead at the top. Liverpool's struggles continue as the Reds remain winless in 2026 after a draw against Fulham. leading late through Cody Gakpo. They conceded a dramatic stoppage time equaliser, keeping them away from the podium places. Meanwhile, Manchester United were also held to a 1-1 draw by Leeds, remaining 6th in the standings. Elsewhere, Tottenham drew 1-1 with Sunderland, Brentford defeated Everton 4-2, and Newcastle secured a 2-0 win over Crystal Palace. That's all from me this morning. Thanks so much for tuning in. Stay tuned now to the Intermediate playlist until 10 a.m.